It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
If you're listening to this show, you love the outdoors. And like me, you've probably dreamed of having a job tied to the outdoors industry. Well, the state of Michigan wants to help people realize that dream. The Department of Natural Resources there is putting on an Outdoorpreneur program meant to inspire new entrepreneurs to offer recreation or nature-focused services in state parks, trails, and near waterways. It's a novel idea, because it can be intimidating and frustrating trying to work with state agencies as a small business owner operating as a concessionaire at places like a state park. The Michigan class is taking place August 2nd through the 4th in Traverse City and features a brew cruise, that sounds fun, as well as an outdoor yoga class, which at my age and with my body maybe doesn't sound so fun. Oh, and there's also going to be all sorts of information about ethics, resource protection, coming up with business plans, and how to work with the state to make your outdoors business dream come true. This sounds like a great class, and I hope some of our other states will follow Michigan's lead and offer similar courses sooner than later. This week on America Outdoors Radio, we've got a few more stories out of the Midwest to share with you. One of them involves an effort to stop those pesky Asian carp from getting into Lake Michigan. It's a $778 million plan that's going to be implemented by the Army Corps of Engineers at a dam just 40 miles away from the Great Lake. And Drew YoungeDyke with the National Wildlife Federation will join us to tell you more about it and weigh in about what his organization thinks about this effort to save the Great Lakes from a carp invasion. We'll also take a trip to Mille Lake in Minnesota, arguably the best smallmouth bass fishery in the entire nation. There have been troubles, though, in this paradise, primarily because walleye fishing has fallen off in recent years, and people are catching and keeping a lot of bass instead, which can impact this fishery in a short time. That's why we're going to be talking with Jim DaRosa. He's a longtime fishing guide there and the past president of the Mille Smallmouth Alliance. He's going to tell you what his group is doing to keep Mille as a trophy smallmouth destination. Hunting season's still a ways off, but you might be thinking of taking up bow hunting. And now is actually the perfect time to buy a bow and some arrows and get to practicing before the season starts. But what bow and what arrows to buy? That's the question. Fortunately, we've got some answers for you, courtesy of Jeremy Johnson, the author of a great book called Can't Lose Bow Hunting. Throw in some outdoors news stories from the tournament trail, from the boating world, and about some free fishing going on this weekend. And we've got a great hour of the outdoors coming your way, which we're going to kick off with our first guest of the day. Next up on America Outdoors Radio, we're taking you to the great state of Colorado. That's where Kevin Timm is. He is the co-owner of Seek Outside. They make some great backcountry gear you're going to love. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I want to tell our listeners about your ultra lightweight tents that look a whole lot like teepees. Tell our listeners why they're in such demand here in the United States.
Well, they allow you to stay warm all 3 and 4 seasons. You can run a wood stove inside them. They pack down very small. They're very light. You can get a tent that is stand-up height with a wood stove that maybe weighs anywhere from 6 to 12 pounds, depending on the model. You can also outfit them with various components to create a full-on double wall environment, or you can add fully enclosed bug screens and stuff like that as well. Where they really kind of take off is in the shoulder seasons when you might have snow, rain one day, might be 50 and relatively nice the next day. So a lot of hunters, a lot of people that do big expeditions, things like that into remote environments, they work really well for.
Well, it sounds like a great alternative to those canvas wall tents where if you've got a horse, if you've got a llama, those are great. But if you're packing it in yourself, what you have really fits the bill a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And most of our people are packing it in on their back. We do have some people that are horse packers or llama packers. Even the horse packers, some of them have said they've went from a team of horses to where they can take one horse and take their camp and everything. And if they get an animal, if they're hunting, well, then they can just lead the horse out with the animal on the horse and the gear on the horse.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And you and I were talking at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous in Boise, Idaho a few weeks ago, and I was amazed to hear that the demand for your tents has spread beyond the United States. They become quite popular in several Scandinavian countries and Japan. What's going on there?
That's funny. I mean, if you look at a lot of the environments that we're used in, they're more remote, cold weather environments. I mean, we're relatively popular in the Northwest, Canada, the Rocky part of the United States, Alaska. A lot of people up there use our stuff. So in that regard, Scandinavia, those Nordic countries, that fits really well with what we do there. They do activities like ski tours, pack rafting, things like that. They do like higher-end American-made products, I guess you would say. So
I think it's fantastic that you're not just a national company, but how you're a going concern on an international basis. Something else I want to touch on. When I first met you and your wife, Angela, 5 years ago in Spokane, you were really focused on the tents and the stoves, but now you've really expanded your product line. You've got not just tents and stoves, you've got backpacks, you've got sleeping bags, you've got other camping gear, but it's a crowded environment. There's a lot of different companies that make those things. How do your products stand out from the competition? Is it the weight?
It's usually the weight, performance, and capability. And we really design around long-term backcountry use. An example would be, say, our backpacks. Some of our lighter backpacks are not much heavier than a lot of the really popular ultralight backpacks that people use for through hiking or little 3-day hikes and stuff. But the difference is you'll find reviews where people say, well, the ultralight backpacks, they're after 25, 30 pounds, they're relatively miserable, and you can easily destroy one in a day if you try in rough terrain, where the Seek Out Side Pack weighs just a few ounces more, is super comfortable with 30 to 50 pounds, even though we design them around carrying 100-pound loads.
Wow.
Super comfortable in the 30 to 50-pound range, lasts much longer, stuff like that. So that's kind of our design focus, and that really carries through in materials and everything. For instance, in the backpacks, we use a waterproof forever backpack fabric. So there's a lot of advantages. You don't need a rain cover. If you're out in the wilderness for 6, 8, 10, 14 days, you don't have to worry about things like the rain cover. Do you get a little bit of rain? Did your pack get soaking wet? Because like in our view, things like, say, the rain cover are really kind of a bad concept to begin with. Because, one, they add extra weight that you have to carry.
Right.
Two, you're forced to kind of make a decision of whether you want to put one over your pack and there you lose access to your pack or not. So you're hiking, and sometimes by the time you're like, well, geez, I guess I better pull out the rain cover, all your stuff's kind of damp anyway. So
been there, done that. I understand completely. We're running out of time, but before we go, where can folks find your products, your teepee-like tents, your cook stoves, your packs, your sleeping bags? Where can they get them?
Well, we primarily sell direct online. Our website is seekoutside.com. Likewise, we have a Facebook page that's pretty active. We have a Facebook group. We're also pretty active on Instagram. Outside of that, there's a few limited retailers in the United States. Schnee's in Montana. There's a place in Jackson. There's a archery shop in Missoula. There's a place in Vegas, Go Hunt. Argali Outdoors is another retailer in Boise, Idaho. So there's a few. We have those listed on our site, but we have more retailers internationally.
And I suspect, Kevin, that as you continue, there's going to be continued demand and a continued retail expansion. What you're doing is great stuff. And folks, if you want to find out more, start at the website. It's seekoutside.com. If you live near one of those retailers, go check it out, feel it, touch it. I think you're going to love how lightweight and how durable this material is. Otherwise, just go to seekoutside.com and lighten your load and have a great time in the backcountry. Kevin, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now, and there's a reason. They are the only Alaska lodge we talk about in this show. It's because they're truly Alaska's best lodge. The adventure starts with a float plane ride from Ketchikan, after which you'll get the chance to experience some of the best hospitality, food, and wonderful people you'll ever meet. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offers spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's only June, but if you're like me, you're already thinking about the hunting season ahead of you. And if you're like me, you're thinking about ways you can extend it. One way to do so is to take up archery, because archery seasons offer additional opportunities beyond what you're going to find during modern firearm seasons. That's why we've got Jeremy Johnson on the line. He is the author of a great book called Can't Lose Bowhunting, and he is going to give you some advice. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Great to be on.
Again, for those hunters out there that want to expand their opportunities, they want to get into bow hunting, but they don't know where to start, let's help them start. And it probably starts with the type of bow that they're going to get. What would you suggest for your average size man or woman who's never shot a bow before when it comes to buying a bow for deer hunting?
Absolutely, John. Well, there's a lot to consider in that, but number one in bow hunting, when you first take up archery in general, you want a bow that fits and is comfortable for you to shoot, because there's going to be a lot of practicing that needs to be done in order to be accurate enough to be able to hit that deer. So my number one on a beginning bow hunter, or, maybe you want to just do target archery or whatever to start with, that's the best way, but you need to be able to shoot that bow over and over again and comfortably. So don't get lured into the trap of thinking you need to have a really heavy draw weight or something that's uncomfortable, or getting your brother's old bow or something that doesn't fit right. Having the draw length set just perfectly for your arm length is absolutely the foundation in shooting accurately. So I really don't even suggest people shoot bows, from other people and use that as a judge as to whether or not they're a good shot when they're first learning. So really having one that is set to your proper draw length and you can draw back without creating a hernia is probably number one.
When it comes to the draw weight, what is enough? I mean, in some states you can, in theory, get by with a 35-pound pull, but I'm guessing that's a little light.
Well, yes, that's a great question, John. Dr. Ed Ashby has done studies, and he's actually a good friend of mine, and we used a lot of his content in writing my book, but he's actually shot an Asiatic water buffalo with a 40-pound bow had full penetration. So I'd like to take draw weight out of the equation if you're using the right arrow. So don't let that deter you. That's a whole other topic which we can get into, but that's what my book's about. And maybe we can touch a little bit on that here shortly. But draw weight, I just would like to take that off the table as a concern. You will need to meet the state's minimum, which it varies from state to state. You'll have to check your local regulations. The lowest I've ever seen it is 35 pounds. Usually it's 40 to 50 pounds draw weight. If you've never drawn a bow before, it might take you a little while to work up to that, but it's doable for anybody. I've seen young teenage girls able to pull a 40-pound bow. So not to say if you're an old guy and you've never done it before to feel bad if you still can't. It's different muscles than, say, you use to do a lot of your day-to-day activities. So draw weight's something to work up to, but not something for anybody to worry about, because I have no doubt that we can get you there.
To me, it's fascinating that we're throwing draw weight out of the equation, because I've heard so many conversations about bow hunting focused on that, and it's clear to me, listening to you, that it's the arrow that matters. So when it comes to picking the right arrow, we're talking broadheads for hunting here as opposed to target arrows, what should a beginning archer look for?
John, that's a great question, and I don't want to entirely discount draw weight. I want to discount it in the fact that anybody can do it. Sure, physics are physics, and heavier draw weight is going to put more energy into that arrow, but to focus in on physics, which is the most important, we can overcome that low draw weight. Like I said, there's been studies where we've got full penetration on Asiatic water buffalo with a 40-pound draw weight, and that's on a longbow, no less, not even a compound.
Wow.
So it can be done. And physics is our friend in that regard. So using a broadhead that has a high mechanical advantage, meaning it doesn't take a lot of energy to penetrate. So depending on the broadhead style, some will take a lot more energy to penetrate than others. Deep penetration is what you need to kill animals because it's more tissue damage. That's
Sure.
what we're after. I really don't want to shoot and lose animals. There's a big difference between hitting a bullseye on a target and actually bringing an animal down. And that's kind of what the topic of my book is, and there's an entire book written on it to give you an idea how in-depth the topic is. So we'll hit the highlights here. But to answer your question, some quick ones that I can give a beginning bow hunter that wants to get a setup that will actually go out and be able to kill an animal and harvest that animal and bring it in an ethical manner. That's what I'm very passionate about. So in that regard, an arrow with a high forward of center, meaning most of the weight is out front, is going to be more forgiving for that beginning bow hunter to shoot, in that if his form just isn't perfect and you're not a tournament archer, you're still going to get that arrow where you need it to be, and it's going to a lot higher percentage of the time hit its target, and it's going to penetrate a whole lot better. But that high forward of center and an arrow that is strong enough that's not going to break, a broadhead that is not going to take a lot of energy to penetrate. Those are the big ones.
Are there any specific brands or particular arrows you would recommend that you can just run down to the archery shop?
Yes and no. Again, it all comes back to physics, so it really doesn't matter the name brand that's on there. What I look for in a good broadhead is something that's not too wide, that's going to be able to penetrate easy. The wider it is, the more energy that's going to take to penetrate an animal. Often animals move, and where you aimed may not be where that arrow hits, no matter how good a shot you are. Sometimes you're going to have to go through bone. So my pick on broadheads, especially on lower draw weight, is a two-blade single-bevel broadhead that is going to break any of that bone that it gets in its way, and it's not going to take a bunch of energy to penetrate. Now, that's what a lot of women, frankly, and younger gals that are just not strong enough to pull those big bows are using these and having great success. Again, I'm not brand specific. All I'm looking for is something that's not too wide. It's a single bevel, two-blade broadhead that will break bone and has really good steel. Really good steel is a place where most broadheads, frankly, fall short because they're trying to hit a price point, and good steel is expensive. There's pros and cons to that. It's kind of like your hunting knife. You buy a good set of broadheads, you can resharpen them and keep using those things for years. I've got a set that I've had for almost 10 years that I still use to this day. Just resharpen them and keep them going. So it's worth the money. It is cost effective in the long run, but that good steel is really important. And I'm going to come back to that because being sharp and being able to shave hair on your arm is one thing, but being sharp after it actually gets inside the animal, which is where you need to be, is another thing. If you have something with very thin blades that's not good steel, it's not going to stay sharp inside the animal.
Absolutely fascinating stuff, Jeremy. Unfortunately, we've got to go. Didn't even get to half the questions I wanted to ask because you went so in-depth on just these two topics of the right bow and the right arrow. But, folks, you've got to get this book. It's called Can't Lose Bowhunting. The author, Jeremy Johnson. You can find it at Amazon.com. Just look for Can't Lose Bowhunting or go to Jeremy's website, bowhuntingsuccess.com. That's bowhuntingsuccess.com. Lots of great tips for you that you can access right now before you buy that book. Whether you're an experienced bow hunter or one that's just wanting to start out, there's a lot of great information in here. Jeremy, thanks so much for sharing this on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
So you sit down and do your budget, and you look at all your monthly costs and your bills and your income, and it seems like there's never quite enough. You know what would really help? Finding $500 a month to help balance things out. That is the typical savings, $500 a month for a family when you switch to MediShare for your health care. And when it comes to healthcare sharing ministries, MediShare is really the gold standard. It's been around for 25 years and has more than 400,000 members. It's been around so long and grown so much because it works. And whether you're single or married or have kids, this could make sitting down to do a monthly budget a lot more fun. $500 a month can more than cover a car payment or pay back loans, whatever. So join MediShare and go out to dinner to celebrate. Here's the number to call. They are incredibly kind and helpful to talk to. 855-90-BIBLE. That's 855-90-BIBLE. 855-90-BIBLE.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio, and our next stop is the Midwest. To be exact, we're heading to Minnesota to one of the best smallmouth bass fisheries in the entire nation. With us here to tell you more about it is Jim DaRosa. He's a guide who has Jim DaRosa's Smallmouth Bass Guide Service, former Outdoors Radio show host, and the past president of the Mille Smallmouth Alliance. Jim, great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Jim, Mille Lake, it's been called the best smallmouth bass lake by BASS in 2017. Tell our listeners more about this central Minnesota fishery.
Well, you know, it is truly the number one and has been in the top 10 for probably since 1990, although maybe not perhaps recognized for it. But we're a glacial lake about 2 hours north of Minneapolis-St. Paul, a real easy drive. We're 132,000 acres, and it is just chock full of smallmouth bass, walleye, northern pike, and some really trophy muskie as well. So it's truly a world-class fishery for a lot of different species. What makes Mille so special from other smallmouth lakes, and there are a lot of good smallmouth lakes all over the country, is we have perhaps the world's best large population of trophy smallmouth bass. And trophies, I'm meaning 18 inches all the way up to 22 inches. Our average smallmouth is probably 3 pounds. It's really common to get a lot of 4, 5s, and 6s.
Nice.
The state record is 8 pounds, and it's been broken 3 times in the last 2 years here on Mille, but not officially broken because the anglers have a true belief in catch and release, and in order to be certified for state record, as you know, it's got to be on a certified scale, which means you need to take it to a grocery store or somewhere. So those anglers decided not to kill the fish for that purpose, but to release it. So yeah, it is truly a smallmouth factory. The conditions of the lake, the way the glaciers came through, deposited a lot of rock and large boulders, and boulders the size of a Volkswagen. The main forage is crayfish.
Okay.
And there's plenty of crayfish and a lot of forage, and it's just a perfect factory to produce trophy smallmouth bass fishing.
Well, Jim, you definitely have me wanting to go to Mille Lacs to go smallmouth bass fishing with you. But despite the fact you've got this great fishery, there have been some threats to it, I understand, and that's why you are part of the Mille Lacs Smallmouth Alliance. Tell our listeners what kind of threats this trophy fishery is facing.
Well, in Minnesota, and I guess it's pretty typical in most, Wisconsin, Minnesota, is the walleye is the king. People cherish the walleye and they like to eat the walleye, and I do too. That's probably, you can't get better table fare.
Oh, yes.
But about 5 or 6 years ago, the DNR, through their research, had discovered that the walleye were stressed and they needed to impose some very strict possession and harvest limits on the walleye. And as a result, the resorts who have been around for decades and decades were really feeling an economic pinch because the walleye couldn't be harvested. And it became an economic crisis because the walleye really is the economic engine that drives the local economy. Long story short, the DNR stood fast and said, hey, we really have to impose these, if we're going to protect this fishery, we really need to impose these restrictions. And someone had said, well, if we can't harvest the walleye, we've got tons of smallmouth bass in this lake. Let's just open the door to harvest those. And prior to that, Mille Lacs was known as a trophy fishery where you could only harvest one smallmouth bass over 21 inches. And that's the results of that through the years is why we have this huge trophy smallmouth bass lake. Well, when the walleye came in and the restrictions were made, the DNR bent to the political pressures of the locals saying, hey, let's start harvesting. So all of a sudden we went from one fish over 21, which is, close to a 20-year-old smallmouth, to where they could harvest 6 smallmouth bass. And, that got the attention of a lot of smallmouth bass fishermen in the area that, we've got something special here. And now we were harvesting without any scientific data to back whether or not it could support this harvest. They went ahead and did it for political reasons. And that was really the reason why the Mille Lacs Smallmouth Bass Alliance was formed. We're a nonprofit organization that sole purpose is to protect this world-class fishery. And as a result, over the last 5 years or so, we've been working closely with the DNR, participating in collecting data and getting some good, solid research on this fishery. But the threat still continues. The walleye fishery here on Mille Lacs is improving, but it's not gotten to the point where it's going to take pressure off the smallmouth. So there's a good segment of the Minnesota fishing culture that wants to harvest. And, to a lot of those people, a good day in the water is measured by how many fillets you put in the freezer.
Right.
Versus, learning how to be a sport fisherman. So, yeah, the bass is challenged. We were able to help entice BAS to come here in 2017 and 2018 with their Angler of the Year tournament. And that really showcased the true trophy potential of this lake to the world. And since then, the DNR has backed off and recognized it is one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the world.
Well, that's good. And have you been able to change some of these harvest limits? I mean, have they gone back down? I know that your organization does promote catch and release fishing.
Yeah, our motto is free the fighter. And yes, we have. We went from that 6 fish limit, and we got it down to 3 under 17 inches. And we've been proposing that we go to 2 under 15. Again, it becomes a political game. You've got, and the DNR, I feel sometimes is caught in the middle of it all.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we're still we're still wanting and promoting the idea of catch and release. And we're not opposed to selective harvest as long as it's based on proper science. And the science right now dictates that 2 under 15 inches it would be safe for this fishery without endangering it. We're very strong in our beliefs that smallmouth bass, that those 15 and 16 inch smallmouth bass are the building blocks for this world-class fishery that we have.
Well, it sounds like the current rigs are definitely a win-win solution. One last question. If people want to head to Mille Lacs this summer, where can they stay? It sounds like there's a lot of resorts. I understand there's some state parks too. And what's the one true summertime technique that you'd recommend for smallies?
Okay, well, as far as places to stay, there's a lot of nice resorts around Mille Lake, on the lake itself, and they can suit just about any budget, from camping in. We have two beautiful state parks right here on the lake, from camping and trailering type opportunities to, 3-star hotels type resorts and everything in between. Probably the best suggestion on places to stay is go to the Mille Lacs Tourism Council Bureau and just do a Google search, Mille Lacs Tourism, and there'll be a whole listing of places to stay. As far as catching these fish, and I've been guiding on the lake now this is my 16th year, traditional finesse type baits from tube jigs and grubs. The big bait right now is the Ned rig. For the last 2 years, the Ned rig has been king. Right now we're in pre-spawn, so we are catching a few fish on jerk baits. Later on this summer, we'll drop shot the boulders in 15 to 25 foot of water. So there's a lot of different styles and techniques that are successful. If any of your listening audience wants to come catch a lifetime trophy smallmouth, I'd say Mille Lacs should be on their bucket list.
And folks, if you want to go with a guide who knows his business, go to Jim's website. You'll find it at fishsmallmouthbass.com. That's fishsmallmouthbass.com. And if you want to find out more about the fishery and the bass of Mille Lacs, go to MilleLacsSmallmouthAlliance.com. Jim, we got to go, but thanks so much for sharing all of this today on America Outdoors Radio.
John, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offers spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now, and there's a reason. They are the only Alaska lodge we talk about on this show. It's because they're truly Alaska's best lodge. The adventure starts with a float plane ride from Ketchikan, after which you'll get the chance to experience some of the best hospitality, food, and wonderful people you'll ever meet. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
There's no more majestic, magical, adventuresome country than the western United States of America to enjoy a great family vacation. Hello, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Shiloh Inns are still offering affordable 4-star accommodations at 2-star prices. Enjoy deluxe smoke-free suites, spacious pools and spas, and fully equipped fitness centers. From free high-speed internet in every room to a free continental breakfast or full, hot, delicious breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. There are no hidden fees like some of the big chain hotels charge. Even the kids stay free, and Shiloh Inns are dog-friendly. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family-owned and proud of it.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers seeks to ensure North America's outdoor heritage of hunting and fishing. Lend your voice to the fight by visiting backcountryhunters.org and join the 25,000 men and women who have pledged to defend wildlife and public access.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. I'm glad you're listening today, but if you didn't catch our entire show or if you missed a recent episode, you can hear this as a podcast anytime you want, either on your computer or on your mobile device. And there's several platforms to choose from. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on Radio Public. Just look for America Outdoors Radio. And we're on YouTube as well. Our channel there is Northwestern Outdoors. That's one word. You can catch not only this show, but our regional show too, Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Now, let's get to some outdoors news. And we're going to start off on the tournament trail. John Cox in Tennessee's Lake Chickamauga. Let's just say this pro has got this waterway dialed in for bass. Cox, who won an FLW tournament here a few weeks ago, just won the Bassmaster Eastern Open last weekend, and the results, they weren't even close. Cox led from start to finish and weighed in over 66 pounds of bass in the three-day tournament. His strategy? Fishing shallow water with jigs, with Senate chunk trailers and wacky rig stick baits. His winnings? Impressive. Cox is taking home a $43,800 paycheck from just this event, and he also earned himself a berth in the 2020 Bassmaster Classic. Way to go, John, and I hope one of these days you'll consider giving the rest of us some lessons on how to fish this lake even half as well as you do. Heading to Pickwick Lake in Alabama, we can report for the first time in the history of the Boat U.S. Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship, a school has repeated as champions, and the team that managed to go back-to-back is comprised of the same two anglers. They are Cole Floyd and Carter McNeil. They took home the victory this year with 45.65 pounds of bass. The victory not only makes back-to-back titles for Floyd and McNeil, it's also the third time that Bethel University in Tennessee has won this particular event. The program has grown into one of the true powerhouses of the sport. I guess they're kind of like the Crimson Tide of bass fishing. In other news, a whole bunch of states are offering free fishing this weekend. That's right, no license required to go fishing. This includes Arizona, Georgia, New Hampshire, Maryland, Texas, and Wyoming, who have free fishing days on Saturday. And you can fish both Saturday and Sunday this weekend in Mississippi, Oklahoma, Kansas, Kentucky, Ohio, and Oregon. And in Oregon, you can not only fish without a license, but you can also catch crab and dig up clams too. Better still, several other states are having free fishing days next weekend. These are great opportunities to introduce new anglers, both adults and kids, to the wonderful pastime we call fishing, and many states have events targeted towards new anglers, young and old, to help get them involved in the sport. And if you've got a hankering to fish in another state but have winced at the non-resident license fees, you can take advantage of these weekends too. Make a road trip of it. If you want to find further details, go to takemefishing.org and search for Free Fishing Days 2019 to find out when and where you can go fishing without a license and be completely legal. Staying on the water, are you going to be buying a boat this year? And are you trying to figure out a good name for it? The folks at Boat US just happened to compile a list of the most popular boat names every year, and here are the 2019 rankings. Coming in as the 10th most popular boat name is High Maintenance, which could refer to the boat or maybe the spouse. Number 9, Why Not? That would be a knot with a K. Number 8, Feeling Naughty, in a nautical way, of course. Number 7, Pegasus. That's a surprising one, that winged horse from Greek mythology. Number 6, gotta love this one, and so does everyone else who loves SNL, More Cowbell. Number 5, for the lawyers out there, Squid Pro Quo. Number 4, Second Chance. Number 3, Forever Young. Boating can certainly make you feel that way. Number 2, Pearl, a shortening, I presume, of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Black Pearl. And number 1, Aquaholic. No, not alcoholic, aquaholic addicted to water. Next on America Outdoors Radio, we're taking you to the Midwest. That's where a pesky fish has been causing all sorts of problems. That fish is the Asian carp, and with us here to tell you more about these fish, the damage they do, and a new plan to stop them from entering the Great Lakes is Drew YoungeDyke with the National Wildlife Federation. Drew, great to have you back on the air.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
So first things first, Asian carp, what waterways are they in? How did they get there? And what kind of problems do they cause?
Well, Asian carp include black, bighead, silver, and grass carp. They were imported into southern aquaculture fish farms back in the 60s and 70s. They escaped through flooding, and now they occupy waters from Louisiana up to Minnesota, from Tennessee over to North Dakota, really throughout the Mississippi, Ohio, and Missouri River watersheds. And we're trying to then keep them out of the Great Lakes watershed. What they do is they really get in, they're planktivores, so they eat all the base level of the plankton in the food chain, just starves out all the bait fish and all the sport fish further up the food chain.
Great way to succinctly state the problem with these fish. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has come up with a plan to stop these carp from getting into the Great Lakes. Tell our listeners what that plan is.
Absolutely. They just finalized the plan and sent it to Congress. And what they're going to do is they're going to take the Brandon Road Lock and Dam, which is about 40 miles south of Chicago. And the Asian carp kind of front line is about 50 miles south of Chicago. And what they'll do is rebuild that lock and dam. It's a choke point that would prevent Asian carp from getting into the Chicago area waterway system in Lake Michigan. And they'll take that lock and dam, rebuild it with an engineered channel, and put a gauntlet of fish deterrent technologies in that engineered channel so that as barges and navigation goes through, fish don't come with them. It includes an electric barrier, a bubble barrier, sound jets, acoustic barrier, and then a flushing lock. And so that whole combination of technologies will greatly reduce the chances that Asian carp can get through that lock when ships go through and establish a population in the Great Lakes.
Question for you. You know, there are migratory fish in rivers. One that comes to mind is, obviously salmon out on the West Coast, heading up the Columbia and Snake Rivers. Is this going to stop some fish species that are desirable from going into and getting out of the Great Lakes?
No, because this is actually an artificial connection between two watersheds that were never connected historically. The Chicago River used to stop. There was a barrier between it, and back about 100 years ago, they reversed the flow of the Chicago River for sanitation purposes. And when they did that, they made an artificial connection between the Illinois and Mississippi River watersheds and the Great Lakes. So these are two watersheds that are not supposed to be connected. So what this will really do as far as fish passage is just reestablish that natural barrier.
All right, last question. The National Wildlife Federation, what's your reaction to this plan? Are you in favor of it? Does it go far enough?
Yes, we're in favor of it. We've been working this plan and advocating for it for years. The draft plan came out 2 years ago, but they've been studying solutions to this problem for almost a decade now. And originally they were looking at completely closing down navigation. This is the compromise that allows navigation to continue, and that was necessary really to get anything done. This is really the one shot that we have to get additional structural defenses against Asian carp invading the Great Lakes. This is kind of our now or never chance. The National Wildlife Federation is fully in support of it.
If folks want to find out more about this issue and other issues that the National Wildlife Federation is tracking, what's the website we need to tell them about?
You can go to nwf.org, but especially with Asian carp, we joined a coalition of other sportsmen's groups in the region at GreatLakesConservation.com, and we have tons of information about Asian carp that you can find there.
Well, thank you for educating us about this. Good to hear some progress is being made, and keep up the work on your end, Drew.
Thank you, John.
Once again, we find ourselves running out of time for the hour, and we're going to have to start wrapping things up here. But if you get a chance, I hope you'll check out our Facebook page. You'll find it at America Outdoors Radio. Like it, follow it. We always post interesting information there. We've got a website, too. You'll find that at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. You can catch our most recent show there, and you can also get a preview of what's coming up in the week ahead. If you like to listen to the radio online, you can do so 6 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning on talkamericaradio.us. And as we mentioned earlier, you can hear us on demand anytime you want on Podbean, Stitcher, and Radio Public and YouTube. Just look for America Outdoors Radio. June is here, and it's truly a wonderful time of year to be fishing, to be hiking, to be camping, and just to spend time outdoors. Here's hoping you are blessed in the days ahead, and remember this: it is your country and you're outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers seeks to ensure North America's outdoor heritage of hunting and fishing. Lend your voice to the fight by visiting backcountryhunters.org and join the 25,000 men and women who have pledged to defend wildlife and public access.